next to the Cienco Gallery in London. Anne Widdecombe is with me now. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
What makes you think that Theresa May has any kind of philosophy, never mind a radical reforming agenda?
Well, I wasn't talking there about philosophy. I wasn't talking about words. I was talking about serious action. The fact is that a succession of governments has ignored the very, very obvious, which is the health service was never designed to cover what we're now asking it to cover.
You said all that. My question is, what makes you think that she's up for any of this?
I'm exhorting her to do it, and I sincerely hope she will. Because if she doesn't, I mean, if she does get 10 years rather than 5, if Jeremy Corbyn carries on as he is, if she does get 10 years, this is the opportunity.
But what is it in her political track record that would make you think she is up for it? Well,
time will tell, won't it? But the fact is, she has a whole series of problems, and what I'm saying is she can confront them. She has got to worry about Brexit. Yeah. Of course she has. It's going to be, the major thing that dominates her first term. But she's got a real opportunity here to look at the long term.
You said that too. That's not what I'm asking you. What big ideas has Mrs May been associated with?
Well, we shall now find out. She's now Prime Minister.
No, I'm asking the past. What ideas has she been associated with?
Hang on. She's now Prime Minister. When she was Shadow Secretary of State for Education, she came up with a particularly good programme, I thought, on free schools. So I think she can. Hang on. So I think she can think imaginatively. You're telling me she can't. I'm asking you. Time will tell. Time will tell.
She didn't come up with
I didn't say she invented it, but she came up with quite an agenda for actually freeing up money to be spent on schools rather than on education in theory.
Parking Brexit. Do you know what else Theresa May wants to achieve in office?
I'm afraid I don't, because one thing we did know during the coalition government was what the economic policy was, which was to balance the books by 2020, if I recall.
Originally 2015.
Originally 2015, but that has gone. There's a bit of grammar schools going on. But beyond that, it's really very hard to say. I mean, one of the things I'm really surprised Anne didn't mention is home ownership. I mean, if there's one thing Tories ought to be doing something about, it's home ownership. And we discussed this a couple of weeks ago.
It's falling.
Home ownership is falling. And what the Community Secretary announced about 2 weeks ago now, I think, was very, very half-baked indeed. So there are all these things that Tories ought to be tackling, but which are going by the wayside. It reminds me, actually, of Blair's government. I mean, Blair's first government had this extraordinary opportunity, because the opposition was nowhere, to do whatever it wanted. And the Conservatives have that opportunity today.
The Tories are 18 points ahead in the polls. Without Anne Widdecombe's radical agenda, maybe they don't need it.
Well, I thought Anne was right on two things. First of all, I think Brexit is too dominant in that. I mean, in a sense, any Prime Minister would be
overwhelmed,
fixated with this. I mean, he's going to take every ounce of energy. On the other hand, the other issue is she should be thinking about other things. Problem is, of course, she's only got a majority. Some say 16, some say 10. She's got a very small majority. Now, I mean, it's a fair criticism. We had a very big 177-seat majority. But there again, to be fair to that Blair government, they were absolutely convinced that they shouldn't act as some sort of dictatorship because they had a huge majority.
Yeah, but Mr. Blair always regretted.
But what they did was
he always regretted he didn't do enough.
More. No, but what they did is start the process of Sure Start Centres, start the process of a 10-year NHS plan. What they did is start the process of reducing child.
Right, but hold on, I don't want to go back on the. I'm asking you. Your piece was about the May government.
Yeah,
well, it has been challenged.
You shouldn't get away with just saying it. Yeah, well, I'm challenging it.
Stick with
Blair was extremely dictatorial.
Keep with the May government. Let me suggest what may be a problem here. If you speak to those around in 10 Downing Street, those very close to her, they say she wants to keep Britain global while making ordinary families feel secure against the effects of globalisation. She wants to have some middle way between the kind of Trump nationalism and the Blairite globalisation. That could mitigate against anything too radical on welfare of the NHS?
I don't think so. I mean, yes, she's got to look globally. I mean, post-Brexit, we're going to be looking globally in a big way rather than within Europe. So obviously she's got to have a global programme, and that's right. And I think her attitude towards the United States is right, for example. She's looking to what's going to happen when the country's actually left the EU. And that has to be right. But of course, at the same time, she's got to consider how people are feeling in this country, what their particular concerns are. And I think she's showing every sign of doing that. I mean, she's the one who talks about people who are just about managing, which actually is a good phrase, because there are an awful lot of people in this country who are just about managing.
She's just ditched it.
Yeah, OK, but it's a good phrase because never mind, whether they're going to go on using it and call them jams, that's irrelevant.
Okay.
It's a good concept.
I understand
there are
that.
people who are neither on welfare nor earning a lot of money who are just about managing. It's a good concept. What's wrong with the concept?
And it reminds me of Margaret Thatcher, who used to talk about strivers, and in a way, and that's the same thing.
And she did a lot for
but
the
here's
strivers,
but here's the problem with the jams, the just about managing. They are about, which Mrs. May has made the centrepiece of this. These are the people she wants to help, but they're about to have their living standards squeezed by rising inflation. And they are on welfare, a lot of them. They're on working tax credits, welfare, and they're being frozen. So what actually is she going to do for them?
Well, I think there's quite a lot. I mean, first of all, a Conservative government, and you're right, home ownership is massive for a Conservative government and ought to be. A Conservative government tries to stimulate business, tries to create jobs. Government doesn't create jobs, but it tries to create the atmosphere in which jobs will follow. It tries to create that sort of prosperity, and it tries, above all, to create aspiration and to make the most of opportunity, hence grammar schools. So I think there is a lot that Theresa May can do, but it's not going to happen by Wednesday afternoon. But the whole point of what I was saying was there are some very big issues which successive governments have not tackled. I really urge her to tackle those.
No, I think we've got that message.
Have you?
All right. The question is whether she has. Michael Patilla, just finally on this. There must be a huge danger that Brexit and the demands of Brexit just suck the energy and are all-consuming for the government.
Well, I accept what Alan said, that there might be fairly all-consuming for the Prime Minister, but there is a cabinet of 20 people, and they're meant to be capable people, and this stuff should be delegated. And marks should be given for radicalism and energy and innovation and imagination. For instance, Michael Gove, in whichever department you put him, was an enormous reformer. But of course, Michael Gove is not a member of this government, and I don't see anybody else having his sort of instincts.
Just before you go, Anne,
Yep.
What would you advise Mrs. May to do about the NHS?
I would have, this is what I really want to see, and I've been saying this since 1998. I want a mature debate across the parties, across the country, across all interest groups, a mature debate about what the options might be, looking at other countries, looking at possible models that we could do here, and have an open debate about that without, if I may say so, Alan's party immediately saying, oh, they're going to privatise the NHS.
But they would say
Let's just have a full, proper debate.
Probably because you...
And then, when we've got a preferred option, we then have to work out how on earth you get there from here. It's a serious grown-up business, and I'm sick of hearing about which party is spending more on the NHS. Let's sort it out. Otherwise, people are going to be completely dispossessed because they're not going to be able to afford...
Okay, so you want a debate?
But I want a very serious, grown-up, no holds barred, look at all the options debate.
All right.
And that takes courage.
Thank you. Now